Hey everybody. Um, yeah, so I got a fun similarity here. I have a chance to work on a friend's 10 bolt from 81. Names will go unnamed. But getting my hands in somebody else's rear end is always fun. So I have a 10 bolt from 81 here. I believe it's a 10 and a quarter. And I have some similarities and some differences between the 8/8 stuff and the 10 bolt stuff. And you hear people say how weak the 10 bolt is versus the 8/8 stuff, and I can already show you pretty obvious similarities or differences. So the actual tooth pattern itself on these is about 1.4, 1.38, and then the 8/8 is actually more like a 1.5, so you have a lot more gear tooth contact there. And then you have the pinion, which has some similarities and some differences. You have 1.7 there, and you have 1.8 there, so there's even more gear contact. What's interesting though is the height of both of these pinions. The 8/8 is much shorter, like obviously much shorter. I think that's about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch. And so when you have a longer pinion like that, I think it actually causes more deflection. But the weakest part in the case, that is an extremely obvious difference. Instead of having 3/4 studs that go into the cap, these are only a 5/8 stud. So you have a lot of weakness there. And then on these, they have the case spreader holes that go all the way through. And so that causes flex. And then the massive backflow through the for the fluid return is huge. Like there's like barely any material right here at all. So that seems like it's just a massive issue when the pinion sees load. The first place it's going to crack is not only is it seam welded there, but it's probably going to start cracking here. I know these like to flex the case, and it's pretty obvious to see why. But the axle tubes are actually thicker by a pretty good margin. I don't know what they are in terms of thickness, like the material itself, but this is actually a pretty decent piece in terms of that. They share pretty much the same wheel bearings. It's about the same thing from an 8/8 to a 10.5. The only other 10.5 I've been in was my my 96 Roadmaster estate wagon, which was the 8.5 differential, which was that it had obvious differences too that were a lot stronger. But so you're messing with a smaller area here with a lot less material and everywhere. Like it is extremely thin pretty much everywhere it could be compared to the 8/8. But I just thought that was interesting to have the pinions differences. The bearings are actually almost exactly the same in terms of thickness. And sorry, I just got text. The nut size is 1 1/4 here, and the nut size on this is a 15/16. So, but that's not really a load area, so I don't really think that matters too much. But that's one beefy spot on the 10 bolt. Other than that, I just thought it was an interesting difference. We'll see how this thing does, but pretty damn similar. Both use a crush sleeve. Both have very similar cap positions and everything else. Nothing's crazy. I wish I had a Dana 60. One day I might have a Dana 60 to be able to rebuild and do kind of a comparison test too. But yeah, there's a lot of material missing on these things, but it should work okay for what he wants to do. So that is it. Oh yeah, and then here's the caps, which are tiny compared to the 8/8 caps. Look at these little bolts. Look at these little guys. Little tiny little bolts. I want to hold a few hundred horsepower. But caps are going to tell you nope, because I think they start cracking at the caps too. They're about the same in terms of the contact patch. Actually a little bit less around there. And that's where they start walking, because you have less contact, less friction between those two surfaces. But other than that, we should be good to rock. So Just thought anybody that wanted to see this would find it interesting.